Welcome to Slow Your Scroll, where we get to meet some of Hawaii's biggest content creators. Today, I'm sitting with someone who's gained fame through helping others. I'm talking about Kamaka Diaz. Thanks for coming in.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
You have done so many projects over the years. You have a podcast now. You have an online marketplace that you're running. You've written a book. We'll get to all of that, but I want to start where you grew up on the Big Island. And I'll ask, when you were growing up on the Big Island, did you imagine you'd be a public figure, essentially?
No, yeah, like you said, we both grew up in Hilo. I don't think I knew you in Hilo, though. Yeah, you're St. Joe, right?
St. Joe, yep.
Yeah, so you know my friend Chad, one of my best friends, Chad.
Yeah, so when you gave me a lot of your pictures to use for later in the story, I was looking through and it was like all the soccer pictures, and I was like, oh, there's Chad, there's Sakona, there's Alden. There's a lot of people from St. Joe that I recognize. That was really cool.
Yeah, so I mean, you know how it is growing up in Hilo, small town. Everybody kind of knows each other. Yes. Even if you don't know them, you know how they look, or you probably seen them around, or
you know someone that knows someone.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. So had a really great upbringing, Hawaiian immersion school. I grew up speaking Hawaiian. My dad only speaks Hawaiian to me and my siblings to this day. And I've played sports all my life, soccer, football. And then after my junior year, I ended up transferring to Oahu to play sports for Kaiser. But before I came to Oahu, my whole life was just on the Big Island. So you're not really thinking about what's next besides maybe college and like playing sports in college. Mm-hmm. I didn't really know what was out there and what other possibilities there were. Social media wasn't around, so being an influencer, content creator, that wasn't a thing. My first job was like restocking cars at Walmart for my friends, with my friend's grandma. So that's what I would do, and I just get paid under the table for that. And growing up, people had regular jobs, like they would become a nurse maybe. My mom went back to school after having 5 kids and became a nurse in RN. My stepdad worked for the state. My dad just had a regular job at Alulike. Stepmom had a regular job. So, it's like maybe you go go into the electric school, or like become an electrician. I think I wanted to be a radiologist or become a nurse like my mom. So that's all I was thinking. I never saw beyond the realm of like the normal 9 to 5.
Yeah. And we'll stick with the Big Island for a bit. You said you played soccer and football, and you moved to Oahu to continue that. So obviously you were really good. When you moved to Oahu, was there any sort of like culture change? Because obviously the competition level is a little bit higher on Oahu than it is the Big Island. You just have more people, so a bigger pool to compete with.
Yeah, that was the goal, was to go to Oahu and play with, better competition so that I could go to college. And then I came here to train with the UH kicker. I was a kicker and receiver because of my soccer background. And then I wasn't actually planning to stay on Oahu that summer, but I was training with Kaiser. And my dad is a Kaiser alum, so he connected me with them just so I could stay in shape over the summer. And then like a couple weeks before school started, they're like, hey, you should just stay here. So I ended up transferring like 2 weeks before school started, like told all my best friends, like all my family, like, hey, I'm moving to Kaiser. And the senior year, right, you're with all the boys, and soccer was my main sport, so we're all supposed to be together, But I ended up just loving it over there. And the thing I noticed was that, to me, it felt like I went from Hawaii to like the continent, because I don't know, it's so different, like the off-island kids.
Yes.
I felt like it's so much more fast-paced, and the relationships weren't as tight-knit. That's how I felt. Like some people, like their best friends were just like that year, like here's my best friend I met 3 months ago. And I'm like, all my best friends were from like 5 years old,
Yeah.
So it's like a little different, like that kind of dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I only moved to the Big Island sophomore year of high school, and coming into it so late, everybody was friends, just like you said, since like grade school, preschool, and had grown up since they were super young. So I could see how moving your last year, you're separating yourself from all of those friends and try to integrate into a a new group, that could be super difficult.
Mhm.
So what happened with the sports? What happened with kicking
Yeah.
and yeah, what happened?
Well, I went for football. They liked me. I was planning to go in college. I got hurt, so I didn't finish the football season. And then I
How
went
did you
in.
get hurt? What was the injury?
Wasn't even in a game or practice. It was like the dumbest way. I think our coaches wanted to do something fun, and you know how you do sharks and minnows, like the coaches were the sharks, and if they touch you, you're out. So we had all those players had to run across the field, and the coaches would line up across the field, and we had to just run and go across of them. If you get to one side, you're safe. So we did that a couple times, and when I was running, somebody ran into me from the back, one of my teammates, and then I just like rolled all my weight, went on my ankle, and so I was like out for the season.
Wow, and
And
it's an injury that literally impacts exactly what you do. It wasn't like you sprained your finger or,
no, yeah, my legs,
your
I
legs,
couldn't kick.
your
And
livelihood.
yeah, and then the plan was to go back to Hilo for soccer season, actually. You're not allowed to do that, but we worked some sort of deal. So I can say that now. It's been over like 11 years. But so I ended up staying for soccer, and we sucked at football. I was still injured going into soccer season, but I was still able to make the team, just hobbling around. And we ended up winning second in states in soccer, the furthest that Kaiser's ever been.
And from high school, you go to UH Manoa, right?
Yeah.
And were your aspirations to still try and be a kicker there, or had that already come and passed?
I think it passed because I realized I'm too injury prone. I got hurt a lot growing up. Even I would do intramurals, also got hurt. My nickname was Fragile growing up. I'm hurt right now as we speak. I have multiple injuries. So I think I gave that up going into college. I was supposed to go to Washington State or Oregon, and I didn't do any financial aid or scholarships because I was on my own when I moved here. I didn't move with my family. I just lived with my auntie. And so I got in, like the counselors helped me get in, but I didn't know how to do everything else. So I had an auntie that worked at UH, and she got me in like a couple weeks before school started. So
Who you know,
yeah,
not what
yeah.
you know.
So I feel like maybe I thought about walking on or trying, but then I think I was athletic and I was a good competitor, but I didn't have the same mindset I have today, like where I'm just like, I just want to be better than everyone else, like that kind of killer instinct. I was just like doing it because I was good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I never had that same passion. Like if I could go back to high school with my mindset right now, I would for sure like just focus on going to college and playing sports. But I'm happy that I didn't because it led me to where I am.
Yeah. So you're now in college, and you graduate from UH Manoa, and that leads you to the Peace Corps, right?
Yeah.
And what made you decide to join the Peace Corps?
Yeah, so my senior year of college, I ended up graduating 5 years. So the beginning of my senior year, studied abroad in Spain. And when I was in Spain, I heard my resident director talking about his time in the Peace Corps. I think he went to Micronesia or something. And I wasn't even a part of the conversation. I just overheard him talking about something with some other students. So I went home, looked it up, watched this like 3-minute video, and it just looked like everything I wanted to do. You could travel, you can learn new languages, you can help others, you can challenge yourself. And by this time, I was a couple months in Spain, and I caught the travel bug. I fell in love with learning Spanish and the other cultures. So I ended up coming back, applying for the Peace Corps, or with the intention to apply to the Peace Corps. I studied abroad again in Argentina so I could finish my Spanish certificate because I wanted to be fluent in Spanish. So my goal was like, I'm going to apply to the Peace Corps in South America, meet my Spanish wife, bring her home, get fluent in Spanish, have hop with babies, surf all day. Like, that was my goal. Didn't end up going to South America. I ended up going to Madagascar because when I was applying, you could do a preference list of 3. And I did Peru and Costa Rica, and I was like, I just want to get this over with. And I was on the M section, and I saw Madagascar. And I was like, oh, cool, like the movie. So I clicked on Madagascar and ended up getting an interview for that instead. And that's how I ended up in Madagascar as a secondary English teacher.
So, yeah, I was going to ask, all right, I read that you were a teacher for English. It was young kids, right? Like,
Yeah.
how old are they?
I taught 2 sections of 66 graders and 2 sections of 10th graders, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are those lesson plans like?
So there's a curriculum that you follow, and then when we got to Madagascar, there's like a 3-month training, and part of it is like this practicum that we have to do where we learn how to teach, English grammar, because some of us, most of us we speak English, but we've never taught English.
Right.
So having to learn all of that, and plus English is my first language, so I think the experience learning other languages helped because I could kind of like reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
So that was the teaching wasn't my favorite part of the Peace Corps. Everything else kind of was, but it was a good experience.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what is daily life in Madagascar like, or at least in the area that you were?
So, you get up, people go to school, farmers go to work, the people go to the market. Like I I would go to my market, I'd either bike or walk, and you just walk next to all the vendors, and they have like peanuts, fruits, vegetables. You have one section where they're selling clothes. It's like the friperie, which is like a kind of like a outdoor Goodwill or something.
Okay.
You can bargain for everything, and you just go like manona, salama, vovao, minamufu. Like you just like saying all these things, greeting everybody, and you're like, okay, I want to buy a pineapple, and they're like, okay, it's 1,200 RR. You're like, lafu be, like that's too expensive. Give it to me for 800. They're like, like blah blah blah, and then you just go like that.
So it's
like,
a haggling.
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
deal.
and I love that. It was so awesome, even with taxis and whatever. But I lived 4 hours from the capital. My site was really isolated from other people. I was about 2.5 hour bike ride from the next volunteer or the closest volunteer, and just like the highlands of Madagascar, cold. I was probably a day away from the beach. I got really, really pale at some point, like super. Like I have a picture I can show you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not nearly as pale as me, but
I don't know. It might have been like that, like how your bicep is. I'm not even joking.
well,
Yeah.
well, you got it all back. From all the pictures that you showed me, it looks super rural, right? So, living on the Big Island is rural, and we have farmers markets and
Yeah.
stuff, but I'm sure it's incomparable.
Yeah.
So, what was the biggest culture shock or the most surprising thing going to Madagascar from Hawaii?
I think so. At first, you think not having running water, not having technology like internet and like having Wi-Fi, electricity. Those are going to be the hard things, right? But really, I mean, once you get used to it, like getting water from a well, taking bucket baths, like that becomes easy. The biggest shock is like trying to cope with like the isolation and their kind of cultural norms. Like kids would always come over and be like, "Hey, come play with us," or like, "Can we do this?" or can we watch a movie on your laptop?" or "Can you do this?" Like people would always come to your house or invite you to go to places, and if you're not used to that, then you can see that as either like rude or intrusive or whatever. You have to create boundaries. For me, it was fine because we got that Ohana culture. Everybody's close. Everybody says hi to each other for the most part. So I adapted to it pretty easily. But I think other than like the cultural shock, it was like learning how to live alone, cook alone, but with limited resources, and keep myself healthy. Because as soon as I got there, like my second month, I had appendicitis. I had an amoeba. Then my first month at site, I had food poisoning. Then like the little while after that, I had like these fleas that went into my feet and laid eggs, and I had to like dig it out and stuff. And like learning how to like get through all of that, just like the new environment and how to keep yourself healthy when you're so far from everything else.
Yeah. And like, what is the healthcare like for you out there?
Well, so we have safety and security and health sessions during training. They give us a first aid kit, and they have staff on call you can call. And then so like if you have a fever, you'll take your own temperature, make sure you don't have malaria, and we have like malaria prophylaxis and stuff. So a lot of things is figuring it out on your own. Like when I got sick, I just kind of just like let it all out and take certain medicine. And you can kind of tell like, okay, is it super serious where I need to have somebody come and get me and take me to the capital, or can I get through it? So you learn a lot about like how much you can handle and your limits.
Wow. And that being one of the things that you learn how to handle yourself, knowing your limits, what is that maybe one of the biggest lessons that you take back or you took back to Hawaii with you, or is there other things that you learned, whether it be about yourself or just about navigating life that you take with you?
For sure. I mean, knowing that there are no limits, or if you do have these limits, you can just push right through them. After finishing the Peace Corps, I was the most confident person in the world. I believed that I could do anything, because if I could get through this part of my life, which is the hardest thing I've ever done, they say the Peace Corps is the hardest job you ever love. So if I could get through this, then I could do anything. Because that was my belief going into like the Race 50K and doing everything that I do now. It's like, I just thought to myself, I've been through so many hardships and like stuff that like I would have a whole podcast just telling certain stories about. I just knew that everything after the Peace Corps would be easy. So that was definitely one of the biggest takeaways. The other takeaway was that one of my main reasons for joining the Peace Corps was to disconnect in order to reconnect with people. And I just didn't like how everyone and myself we were getting so involved in social media, where that was kind of just taking over our lives. And I felt like a lot of the times I would post would just be like, here's a picture of me hiking in Hawaii. So it was like, I felt like it was very vain at times. So I wanted to kind of just get away from it all. And then I was able to connect with people on like a very human level and just have conversations like this without technology and like really get to know people. And I felt like the more I understood others, the more I understood myself. So I've seen like so many different people from all walks of life. And I feel like I really have an understanding on like the human condition and human interactions and like social interactions and stuff like that. So I felt like I really learned about others and myself. And then the last one would be just like how kind people are. How being kind doesn't mean you have to give money or, these things of big monetary value. The Malagasy people are some of the poorest people in the world. Madagascar is one of the poorest countries, like top 10 in the world. And they had so little to give, but they always gave. Like anytime you'd walk to town or you would need help, they would always help you. They would always call you and like, manjus, minambari, like come in, eat rice. And they would just always feed you, always take care of you. If they didn't have a soccer ball, they would get a bunch of rubbish and tie it up with some rope and make a soccer ball. Like they never complained on their condition. They never apologize for like, oh, sorry, my house is messy, sorry, this is ugly, like how we have these standards, these societal standards of like, this isn't good enough, sorry, I don't live in a mansion. Nobody ever apologized for that. Like, I got a brick house, I got a mud hut, I got whatever, and they're just like, come eat in my house, and here, let me help you, and let's just have a good time.
And I mean, it's an experience that you could probably only get through doing something like that. There's really no other way to gain that sort of knowledge and perspective.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back to Madagascar after, or?
I really want to. Recently, I opened up a computer lab over there. But before I left, that was my secondary project. And recently, we raised some money, so I actually sold some of my books. Actually, no, I think so. My host mom, Lalaina, she said that she needed like $200 for the computer lab, the library, whatever. And I was just thinking, well, instead of giving, because I don't like to give, I felt like, I don't know, I wanted to do a little bit more. So I posted it on my social media and I told people like, hey, I just need to raise $200. So if you guys make a donation, and I'll give you one of my books. So whoever donated, they'll get a free book. And I would match the $200 donation. So instead of giving them $200, we could give them $400. Then I ended up raising over $2,000. And I sent it to them, and she was just crying, and she was super stoked. So I'm still in touch with them, but I haven't been back. The plan is to go back in like a year or two, maybe. It would be amazing to go back, especially before I lose my Malagasy.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
While you were in Madagascar, you grew out your hair for 2 years, right? So it was shorter than it is now. It was totally shaved, bald to the skin.
Avatar Aang.
And then by the end of it, it was
Past my
long and flowing,
chest, yeah.
and
Luscious.
you documented it too. that was that kind of your first, I don't know, like transition into like social media, or like, what was the whole idea behind documenting that process of growing your hair out?
Well, I would always make videos, and I like storytelling. So, my major in college was communications. My track was digital cinema. So we would make videos, and I would be more so on like the storytelling end, the writing. And then in college, my friends and I would go back to Hilo, and we'd always make these videos of us going around the Big Island during winter breaks, summer breaks, and jumping off things, and kind of like summer videos. That was when like the GoPro started getting big, and people would start posting their YouTube videos. So I mean, I am pretty confident to this day that we were one of the first people that were doing that in Hawaii, like making these like adventure videos.
Yeah, it's kind of like now where we post a reel when you go on, a vacation. You were already doing that from the get-go.
Like that was our thing. Like, okay, everybody come back, we'll do this, document it, and so I would edit the videos and I post it to YouTube. So I had that going on my YouTube channel. I also would post poems and songs that I would write for my friend. So I had a YouTube channel, and I would make like Snapchats, just like stupid Snapchats for my friends, like actual telling stories, whatever. So I was kind of involved in that. And then when I joined the Peace Corps, I saw different people doing time lapses, and I thought it'd be really cool to do one of my own, because I never had long hair. I always had short hair like this, never grew out my facial hair. I can't grow out much facial hair, but I just thought, well, I'm gonna be out in the wild, and I'm not really gonna care how I look, so I figured this would be the perfect time to do it. So I cut it all off as soon as I got there, and then grew it out for a little over 2 years, and just I took a video every week, and then I took a picture of myself every day. I didn't post the pictures though.
Any desire to grow it all back?
Well, I cut it after my second year when I came back to Hawaii, because I extended, and I was there for 3 years. So when you do that, you get to come home for a month. So I cut it when I came back, and then I started to grow it out again. And after I did my race 50K, I cut it off and donated it. And that's probably the end of the long hair era, just because with everything I'm doing now, it's hard to go through the awkward phase. Because I'm on video like every single week, so yeah, it would be pretty tough to do that.
Yeah. You mentioned you were putting poems on stories and songs and stuff on YouTube, but you also mentioned that you had sold some books, and I don't know if you sold the book that I'm thinking about, but you wrote a book. Mm-hmm. Is that the book that you were selling?
Yeah.
So yeah, you wrote a book, kind of documenting your time in Madagascar. Kind of how did that come up? You're just like, I'm gonna write a book.
Well, everything happens, I feel like, out of necessity for me. So I had a blog when I was in Peace Corps, because that's how I was able to like update people on my life when I was away, so I don't have to like talk to everybody all the time. So in 2020, when I was doing the race to 50K, paying off my student loans, the pandemic started, and a lot of my jobs before that was like out with people, helping them at their house, doing things in the community. So because we had to stay home, I was trying to think of new ways to make money. So I was thinking, I can just take my blog that I have, change it up a little bit, and make it into a book and sell it. So that was the idea. But I actually didn't finish the book during the race 50K. Ended up paying off that in 11 months. And then the year after, like a couple months later, I published it in 2021. And then it's just like a fun book of like poetry, reflections, blog posts, stuff like that.
Do you plan to do another one like that, or write a more traditional style book with chapters and a story, or no, or that's something?
That was always the goal. I knew I wanted to write books, like more in-depth story about my time in the Peace Corps. I do want to write like these poetry books, like a mix of like Dr. Seuss meets or how I think I describe it as Shel Silverstein meets Tupac Shakur with a hint of Dr. Seuss.
It's quite a mix.
Yeah. So I have some titles already lined up that I want to do.
Like names of the book?
Yeah. My first one will be Pun Intended.
Oh.
Yeah. So I already got some that I in my notes. I have like over like 500 notes in my phone.
I mean, you're obviously a creative, right?
Yeah.
Like you're one of those people with one of those, very unique minds that can see things that, you know, a more maybe type A minded person wouldn't see.
Crazy people, that's what they call it.
That's it's a blunt way. No, but obviously no, you're just very creative. And through that creativity, you mentioned it a couple of times, you found an extremely creative way to pay off your student debt, the race to 50K. We've featured it here on Hawaii
That's how
News.
we first connected, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We featured it here on Hawaii News now years ago. I don't know if it was your brother had brought it up to me.
Maybe.
But in a nutshell, you had about 50K of student debt, and you decided to pay it off just by doing any odd jobs, and your goal was to get that done within a year. How did you come up with that idea in general?
So I came up with that idea when I was still in the Peace Corps. I was finishing my service in 2019, and I was trying to think like, what am I gonna do when I come back? You don't get paid in the Peace Corps, so I didn't have any money. I knew I had about $50,000 of student debt, and while I was thinking of what to do, I was trying to just think of my future. Like, I want to travel, I want to write books, I want to do this and this and this. And everything just kept coming back to student loans. Like, that's going to hold me back, because I hear stories of people spending their whole life paying it off. Like, probably our parents, still paying it off. So I was thinking, why can't people just sacrifice 1 year and just, like, put all their money towards the student loans and just pay it off? And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do to make money? I was like, okay, I have all these skills, but I can't decide what to do. And so I knew I liked helping people. Like, that was the one thing that I knew for sure. I love being of service. So I was thinking, well, I thought about a lemonade stand. So I thought about the kids sitting outside in their driveway and just selling lemonade, and people giving 25 cents. But then I was thinking, but 25 cents is nothing. Like, I don't even have 25 cents on me most of the time. So I was thinking, what if people just donated whatever they wanted? Because instead of getting 25 cents, maybe they'll give $5, maybe they'll give $20, and especially if they know what their why was. So, like Girl Scout cookies, they're like, we're saving up for a trip to go to Oregon, to go to this camp, whatever. So there's a purpose for it. So I was thinking, well, what if I just sell lemonade and tell people this is all going to my student loans? So that's how it started, was just like thinking of me doing like selling lemonade and people just giving money. Then I was thinking, what if I just ask people, what could I do to help them help me? And they can just give me any kind of job to do, and whether I know it or not, I'll learn it if I don't. And then they will just donate whatever they want. And if they gave me money, awesome. If they couldn't give me money, then at least I helped them. So that's how the whole idea started. And before I even left, like months before I came back to Hawaii, I was telling people, like, they're like, what are you going to do when you get home? I said, I'm going to pay off $50,000 student loans in 1 year. I was just like putting it out there, just saying like, I'm just going to do odd jobs and whatever.
I'm sure you get these questions all the time when you talk about this, but what was the best, worst, and strangest job that you had to do?
Best, I think, was dressing up as Buzz Lightyear for a kid's birthday party. That was super fun and very creative. Like, she just reached out to me saying like it would be a really cool idea. And that was the coolest thing, is people would think of things for me to do, because they knew what I was doing. And like, how can we pay this guy? What job do I have that I could pay this guy? That was one of the most fun. Hardest, you said?
Worst
was I had to transfer these rocks for somebody, but I didn't have a truck, so I had to like borrow a truck and then load it all up. And she told me to go to the wrong one. There's like Waimanalo and the dump, and there's the Waimanalo Gulch, which is like west side and in Waimanalo. So I went to the one in Waimanalo, and that was the wrong one. So the next day I had to still borrow the truck, and the thing was like flexing, So I had to ask a friend to help me. Had to go all the way to the one on the west side and like sneak it in there and dump it. So that just took a lot, and it was only for like $75. It was like it took out way more time than it needed to. But then I would have stuff like my neighbor calling me over in Gila and saying, hey, can you pluck this one weed from his concrete or his like gravel yard, and he gave me $100. So it all was balanced out. And like I said, I didn't ask what they were going to give me. It wasn't until the job was done, they just give me whatever.
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot of faith that you have to have in people just being good, because some people would be like, all right, well, here's $5. And Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the strangest one, there's a couple that I would just like, I get a random email or like a message from somebody on Facebook with no profile pic and be like, can you come out to my house in Volcano and help? I'm an old person and help take pictures and upload it to a computer. And I would just go. I have no idea how they look. I'll just show up to their place and be like, oh, are you whatever? And then I'll do that. I had to clean out a girl's dorm room one time because the pandemic started. I was in Hilo. She went back to Oahu for spring break. Then all the flights stopped. So I was stuck in Hilo. She was stuck over there. So the mom contacted me to go to her dorms and pack up everything and send it out to her. So I had to clean out a girl's dorm room.
How much did they pay you for that?
I don't remember, like maybe 200 something.
Wow.
And then they paid for shipping. Some people would just buy me lunch too. Some people would just donate money randomly.
Wow.
It was so cool. That's the before any book gets done, that's the first book that I need to finish. Because everything was documented.
Such
I
a
have it
great
all.
story.
Yeah.
I mean, each job is probably a great story.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
each chapter could be
Yeah.
each job.
Yeah.
Are
It
there
was
any
so
jobs
awesome.
that you would refuse?
No.
Not one.
I said as long as it was legal. So I think maybe the only jobs I refuse are people who ask me for nudes. That's pretty much it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And could you see yourself doing any of the jobs that they had you do? Like, oh, actually, this was really fun, and I would like I could see myself actually doing this long term.
No, I don't think so. I think it was fun, like especially the ones that I've never done before, like putting a shelf onto the wall or like these random things that I would do, installing insulation, waxing and detailing a car, stuff like that. But nothing that was like, I really love this. I think what I realized is that I love sharing my life. And the thing that I realized was I love posting and creating these videos and telling my story. Yeah. So it wasn't the jobs in particular, but it was like everything that I was doing as a whole that I really loved.
Yeah. Did you how did you advertise? Like that you were doing this? Was it just through your own social media or were you like door knocking?
No, it was all like the news, social media. So I had, and I still have the paper. It was like, do this, get on the news, post this video, make this, like it was all planned out, months ahead. Like it wasn't just like I just woke up and be like, I'm gonna do this.
It wasn't a haphazard.
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of
And I still have like all my notes from Peace Corps where I like, even from like getting my YouTube channel monetized months before, starting to vlog to create momentum, then releasing the video of me announcing the race to 50K, then going on the news, and then posting every day on social media. And then from that point on, it would just kind of spread between friends, family, and then random people would start contacting me. Like I would get random texts like, hey, you helped my friend with this thing one time and I need help clearing my yard or dumping my trash. And that's how it started.
Just word of mouth, mostly.
Yeah.
We're going to fast forward now to kind of where you're at now, your podcasting. Mm-hmm. How did you jump into this world of podcasting?
Yeah, and it all starts from my race to 50K because that opened up all the opportunities and doors for me because, you know, I just put myself out there so people kind of knew me. So when I was creating my book, I needed somebody to do a book cover because like art, like that kind of stuff is my weakest suit. So Jared, you know Jared Kushi from Hilo? He went to YKL.
Name sounds familiar, but...
Maybe we saw him.
Yeah.
So he's our CEO for Hawaiiverse. Yeah. He saw me at a wedding that I helped out at. Josh Hattori's wedding. Another Hilo person. I don't know. Anyways, so he saw me at that wedding helping out, and so he started following me. And then when I asked somebody to help me make a book cover, he offered to do it for free because he had a graphics team, like a design team. So he did it. That's how we first connected. And then a couple months after, when we were in Hilo, during the pandemic, he told me about this idea called Hawaiiverse, which is this online platform to support local businesses. So him and our other partner, Taylor, and his girlfriend at the time, but a wife now, Callie, they told me that they wanted me to be like the host, to promote it, kind of be the face of it. So we all founded it together in June of 2020. And we would do these spotlight videos where we'd go to local businesses and we'd highlight their stories and their products and just try to give them free publicity. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did for about a year. And then in 2021, we kind of phased that out, and my team told me to start a podcast. And funny, because it's like my life now, but I didn't want to start a podcast. They were like, no, just do it. They saw where, you know, everything was going was podcasting. And they set me up with Summit Media. It's like this radio station on here on Oahu. And I just had a little GoPro. I would record myself. I would send the footage back to Taylor and Hilo. He would edit it, and I would post on social media. So it had this like really bad, but we made it work process.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept doing that. And then I ended up really liking it and just enjoying the conversations. And it blew up so quickly and kind of just took over my life.
Yeah. What is the hardest part about podcasting for you?
I think all the behind the scenes things, like the scheduling with multiple parties, right? Like the guest, my videographer, and then myself, and then the editing,
Mainly just the
logistics, yeah. And then
but you have no problem with being in front of the camera,
Yeah,
because you've done all that for
showing up and talking. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
You know, doing all this is easy. That's where I'm trying to get myself, like create my team and whatever, so I could just show up, post, and go off and do side quests.
What has been who has been your favorite guest?
There's a lot. People ask me this all the time. I always say Bretman's up there just because, you know, such a funny person, massive fame, but so down to earth. McKenna Maduli, she was on my live show recently. I brought her back because she's a professional. You know, she's the queen of talk story.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed talking with her and a lot of others, but I just usually stick to those two.
How do you prep for interviews like this?
So majority of the people I invite, I kind of follow them already, or I know a little bit about them, and I would research them. I write out an intro, and I've got to the point where I can so I always start off with, where are you from, where are you grad, what was it like growing up, and just from those questions, it leads to the whole conversation.
Yeah, I mean, similar to kind of what we've done today. Because I'm still new at this, and I'm trying to find a groove of, you know, the best way to segue into things and so forth. And
yeah, you're doing great.
And thank you very much. But yeah, so I'm wondering, as someone who's, you know, done it for a while now and has been successful, you know, what that preparation is like. And, you know, you spoke about your live show with McKenna. That's got to be, you know, a totally new animal as far as the pre-recorded shows. What was that like to get in front of an audience live? Because it's very different when you're in front of just cameras and no one's around. But what was that like in front of live audience?
For me, it wasn't bad at all. It was kind of just like showing up, but like we have like a bunch of people looking through the door right there, you know. So I don't have a problem being in front of people. I really enjoyed the energy and the crowd participation. The only thing different was, like, instead of having social media questions, I would just have like real in-person questions. So I really enjoyed it, and it's something that we're gonna do at least once a year.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, when can we expect more live shows?
Yeah, I probably don't want to do another one this year. I want to do more traveling and go to different places. But yeah, maybe next year at some point. The Blue Note liked it too, so I think we'll
kind of an intimate venue too, so it's not,
you
know, overwhelming by any means.
Exactly. Yeah, and I felt super honored that I got to do it at the Blue Note, because you got like the biggest musicians that performed there. Yeah. And just little me with my local slippers.
You had no shoes on, I think, at one point.
I did take it off. I forgot my shoes, actually. I did try to bring shoes, and I forgot at home.
And then you're just like,
yeah, just go barefoot.
Let's keep it a little.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would be your dream interview? Maybe you have a couple.
Yeah, it would have to be just like the local people, like Max Holloway, Jason Momoa, The Rock.
The Rock.
He follows us, which is cool. But one of those people, Nicole Scherzinger, she'll be on at some point. I talked with her. But yeah, just all in good timing.
Yeah, and how often are the episodes, or how often are you trying to put out an episode, or do you have a schedule of when people can expect them to come out?
Every Thursday. I think I post them like super early in the morning for the people who aren't living in Hawaii. So I think like I post them at 4 a.m. Hawaii time, so wherever that is for you.
And because it started with Hawaii Verse, what is your affiliation or relation with them now that you're doing the podcasting? Like, what is your role with Hawaii Verse at this point?
Yeah, so I'm the director of outreach and host of Hawaiiverse. So when the podcast started, I started to put a lot more time into the podcast because I just saw the momentum. So it blew up so quickly that everybody thought that Hawaiiverse was just a podcast when we
Mm.
have all these other things that we're doing. So last year, I think in April, coming up to about a year, I separated it and renamed it Keep It Aloha, just so people wouldn't be confused about it. And then I kind of took over just the whole podcast by myself, had my team just focus on only Hawaiiverse. And now I'm more hands off with Hawaiiverse, but I always show up. Like I'm always here for High Now Daily,
Yeah.
bringing some of our vendors on the show, and then doing things, whatever they need, because I'm still a co-founder of Hawaiiverse.
Yeah. So as the representative of Hawaiiverse, it's an online marketplace for local Hawaii companies to sell all made in Hawaii goods. Um, how do you go about choosing who's on that site, or is it just open to anybody that wants to get on there?
Yeah, so we have a coupon directory, which is an app that people can download, and it does connect to our e-commerce store. So it's free to join for any local business, and then the e-commerce side, we have like, not really like an interview process, but we kind of vet them to make sure like their product would sell and like they're a local company or whatever. So we do that. We do a consignment, and then we do all the fulfillment for them. So they send us their product, and we just ship it out to everybody. So it's kind of like an Amazon of Hawaii.
How many brands or companies are you working with?
I think we're affiliated with probably over like 1,200
Wow.
local businesses. Yeah, it started with 40 in Hilo,
Oh.
and then we grew to about 800 something. We had like a race to 808. So we got to 808, and then it just kept going up. So we were at 1,000 in like less than a year.
And do you have any aspirations to make it a physical location, like a brick and mortar store?
Yeah, we've been looking for places in Hilo. Rent's expensive, so we're trying to figure that out. But at some point, we do want to have that a physical location. We have our Moat Gabs game, which is this really fun card game.
Okay.
It's kind of like Mad Gabs, but with local phrases.
Okay.
So we have that we're selling a lot. We're at the Honolulu Coffee Experience on Kalakaua Street. So we have like a Hawaiiverse wall where people can go and like get that and some other products. So that's like our like quarter brick mortar store.
And then your philanthropy and working with all these local stars and everything, you at one point helped, I think you helped coordinate the Iam Tongi concert and homecoming, right? Or you were at least in that video promoting it, right?
Yeah, so I was contacted to just help with some stuff for the homecoming, but the actual like event stuff, like that was, they just contacted me, but I didn't really do anything for that. But I was helping with the Bring Iam Home video, because we wanted to make sure he would get into the top 3 so that they could bring him home. So my role was like kind of like the marketing, whatever. So Xavier, how's this guy, contacted me, and we were talking stories, and I thought of this idea of getting everybody together, like the local celebrities of Hawaii, and like singing a song. Like I remember in the pandemic, they sang like Imagine, like all the celebrities would sing
Yeah,
Imagine.
it's like the
and
We
they
Are
stitched
This
it up.
World thing.
Yeah, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. And then if we sing the Country Road. So
Yes.
instead of like Country Road, Take Me Home, it's Take Iam Home. So I changed the lyrics. And then I contacted Kimia, because she was recently on my podcast. And then she connected me with Imo Garza, and they helped me, and they saved the project, because like it was way bigger than I thought. But we did that, and that was a crazy time. We did that all in like 70 something hours, and then it was an amazing video, and a lot of people just came together.
I mean, we featured it, and it was beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Do you ever kind of like think to yourself, oh my God, like how am I connected to all these, like stars and revered artists, musicians,
Yeah, all the
actors,
time.
and so forth? Like you came from the Big Island.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I would always say, like, I'm, like, the most random person, like, the most random public figure, because, like, people are, like, musicians or athletes, or they do something. I'm just a guy who just did a bunch of random stuff, and now I do the podcast. So at least, like, now I'm known as, like, a podcast host, but I say, like, I'm famous by association, because I just talk to all the famous people. That's what I do. And it's funny because when I was doing that video with Imua and Kimmy, I'm like, Kimmy was one of my favorite artists. Like, I would watch at the Republic, and I was I would always listen to her songs in Madagascar and like, oh, like she's the best. And then now I'm just like texting Kimmy and I'm like, I'm friends with Kimmy, you know. That's when I was like, wow, my life is kind of crazy. And like, I was at Bretman Rock's birthday party, and I get recognized when I go out. It's just, yeah, I feel like just a normal Hilo boy, but it's yeah, it's very humbling, and I'm just very grateful because a lot of the people that like come up to me, they're just thanking me for stuff, you know. So I really appreciate that.
I mean, you're a philanthropist, and you go. My intro, I had written it down a couple of times. It was like, you know, you're not famous because of content centered around yourself. You're famous because of the way that you help others, and clearly, you know, that's brought you to where you are now. And like you said, you're now famous by association because you're talking with all these other people. But again, you're helping them build whatever brand or platform that they're promoting. So
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
What is your ultimate goal? You know, do you have one? Is there a place that you see yourself in with 10 years or,
Yeah.
you know, down the road? Is it like on TV as a host of Keep It Aloha,
Yeah.
a show, or?
Yeah, I think I just do whatever the next most exciting thing is. It seems like my life kind of happens in periods of like 2 years. Like I'm doing something for 2 years and I do something else and I do something else. I think I really found my niche in podcasting, so I'm gonna stick with that. I'm going into that full time this year. I used to work at UH as a Peace Corps recruiter part time, so I quit that at the beginning of the year, and so I'm just full time podcasting. I have my other businesses and just like always helping out. But I think, you know, my main thing is just community. Just always creating community, always connecting people, always helping out. So however I can be of service to others, I think that's the goal. Social media is like, I know how to leverage it, you know. I don't love it. I love what it does for me. And I know how important it is for business. So I don't want to live on social media. Like I post and I get off, and, you know, once in a while I look at a couple stories. But I love sharing my life. I would love to just disappear one day. I mean, it's kind of like, I always think that'd be really cool. Like I'm just like doing all this stuff, and then boom, I'm just like gone for like a couple months.
Pull a Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. So that's kind of in the back of my mind. But I think realistically, it's hard because like I can't live anywhere else in Hawaii because all my work is here. But I think I want to try to structure my life where I can record a bunch of podcasts in like a week or two and then go travel for like a couple months.
Or here's an idea: you take Keep It Aloha on the road.
Which is also what we're working. I just got a manager, so
There you go.
that's a tour is what we're planning.
There you go. You get to travel. You get to do the podcast still.
Yeah.
So
So a mix of both.
Yeah.
But I think, just continue to learn, continue to grow, and really want to just take care of my body and health and all that so I could live a long, healthy life.
Well, nickname is Fragile,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
hopefully you stay healthy.
Yeah.
I saw that you were recently on a Fox game show.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
We Are
Another
We Are
side
Family.
quest, yeah.
What was that all about?
Yeah, somebody DM'd me randomly about a little over a year ago, and they just asked me if I wanted to apply for a TV show, or like a trivia show. And I was like, I'm not super good at trivia. I know a lot of sports, so I just applied, and we had a couple of interviews. It got postponed because Jamie Foxx was supposed to be the host, but he got sick or he almost died or something. And then it started up again last year, and then I ended up getting chosen. And then we went to Georgia for 2.5 weeks to film with about 100-something people, and it was super fun. Like all the people are really close, and all the contestants are still really close. And it was just this trivia game where you'd have to guess the famous celebrity from their non-famous family member.
So yeah, I had to look up what it was because admittedly I don't watch TV outside of like our own newscast.
Yeah.
But they have a sibling or a relative of a famous singer sing their famous relative songs, right?
Yeah, well, it could be any. It didn't have to be a singer. It could be an athlete. It could be a politician. It could be just anyone famous.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then and they had to do what? Or you just look
So
at
they
them?
would sing a song. They would give clues, and they had this big sphere. So on the sphere, it would show clues.
Okay.
So it would show, like, for example, like Dwight Howard one of the easiest clues, it showed like Dwight from The Office, Howard Stern. So like Dwight Howard, but that was a really easy one. There was a lot of ones that I just had no idea, or people had no idea who it was.
How far did you get? Did you win?
So it was a cool concept because everybody was there the whole time.
Okay.
So it was 100 contestants playing this game, and so the first round you get it's $20,000, and whoever gets it right splits the $20,000. Second round, whoever gets it right splits $30,000, and then whoever gets the first and second round the fastest bit my tongue, the fastest. They go to become the star player, and they have a chance to win $100,000.
Got it.
So whoever is a star player, they can try to win $100,000, and then everybody's just there every single episode trying to become the star player.
Got it.
Yeah. So I ended up making a couple thousand, and I just got paid recently, actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
This is the awkward phase of the interview where we just come to an end. I never have a easy transition on how to end it, but I've done a couple times in the past where I just ask, what is your favorite local food?
Okay, it's gotta be chicken katsu or meat jun, or Korean chicken. I usually rotate between all of those. I've been more on meat jun recently and Korean chicken. Haven't really been on the chicken katsu because I feel like that's some more unhealthy than the other two by a little bit. They're all unhealthy-ish. Everything in moderation, right? But yeah, I've been on meat jun a lot.
And when you were in Madagascar, what was like something that you got there that we don't get here that you'd be craving?
They had some good stuff with coconut. There's the ravi tutu au coco, which is like crushed cassava leaves, and they cook it kind of like how we have like squid luau, but not like that. Maybe more like luau stew, and then they would have coconut and pork, whatever. So that was my favorite. Yeah, or even just with like beans and coconut. It's so good.
Yeah. Sounds good. Kamaka, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
That's all we got for today. You can catch Kamaka at Keep It Aloha anywhere you get your podcast, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Spotify,
everywhere.
Apple.
Yeah, new clips every single day on all the platforms: TikTok, Facebook, YouTube.
And plug your Instagram.
Kamaka DS8. If you go there, you can find everything.
There you go.
Yeah.
Kamaka DS8 on Instagram. He's got links to everything. Keep It Aloha podcast and Slow Your Scroll podcast to hear this conversation. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching on YouTube. We appreciate you guys, and we'll be back. Thank you for listening to this episode of Slow Your Scroll. For more episodes like this, head to hawaiinewsnow.com/podcasts.